We have the sky always before us, therefore we do not recognize how beautiful it is. It is very rare to see anybody go into raptures over the wonders of the sky. Yet of all that goes on in the whole world, there is nothing to approach it for variety, beauty, grandeur, and serenity. That's a quote from Henry Peach Robinson's 1896 book, The Elements of a Pictorial Photograph. It is also the quote that welcomes you to the Gathering Clouds exhibition on view here at the George Eastman Museum until January 3rd, 2021. Hello again. I am Jared Case, Curator of Film Exhibitions at the Dryden Theater and the George Eastman Museum, and I'm coming to you from my office here at the Dryden Theater. And you may be wondering why I'm here talking to you about a photography exhibition. Well, we do like to have a synergy with our programming, and for quite a while I have had the plan to bring a short series of films that feature clouds prominently to the Dryden Theater so that it could be complementing, at the very least complementing the exhibition, if not in conversation with some of the themes that the exhibition explores. So let me tell you a little bit about Gathering Clouds. It starts in the 19th century with the beginning of photography, and it talks about how clouds were actually a problem. They were a barrier to getting a true photograph of a space at a particular point in time. Because the exposure times were so long for this early photography, and since the clouds are either moving or they would be overexposed by this length of time, the photographers often had to make two negatives, one that was exposed for the sky and the clouds, and one that was exposed for the landscape itself. Then they would take these two negatives and put them together in a print to get a representation of what that space looked like over a certain period of time. So it was a barrier, a barrier for technology to overcome throughout the years so that you could get what we now call a snapshot, where it takes an instant photograph or instant image of how something looks at a very specific moment in time. The exhibition goes on to explore clouds as symbology, what clouds mean to different cultures and how they're used in popular culture. And it also recognizes exactly what Robinson was saying in his quote, that these are clouds. The clouds are something that we experience every day. All we have to do is stick our head out the door and we can see clouds, unless it's a clear sky. Whether they are sort of highlighted against that blue background or if they cover the sky entirely, they're something that is constantly changing, and they do have beauty and force, and it's something that we can take advantage of, but we tend to take for granted. So, in thinking about these themes and clouds, I did a lot of research into what we might be able to show, and hopefully I've got some choices here that you think are very worthwhile. So the first one we're going to talk about today is the 1972 film Solaris, directed by Andrei Tarkovsky from the Soviet Union at that point in time. It is a science fiction film that doesn't even really take place on Earth that much. It focuses on the planet Solaris and a group of cosmonauts that were sent to investigate the planet, do some research on it. So the first group of cosmonauts that were sent, they started to experience some hallucinations, some visions that they were seeing. As they're looking at the planet, there is a bank of clouds, a covering of clouds that actually obfuscates what's going on the planet's surface. So there's the physical representation of clouds as a barrier. This is something that the cosmonauts need to get past in order to have a better examination of the planet's surface and below. So the cosmonauts actually go down to the planet in a ship, and they start to see things that don't make sense. The cosmonauts come back to the space station. Their mental state continues to deteriorate to the point where one of them actually dies. A report is sent back to Earth, and the Space Administration decides to send a psychologist to the space station to examine exactly what it is that's going on. So when he gets to the space station, the condition has gotten worse. The cosmonauts there are still having hallucinations, they're acting erratically, and he does some investigation into the planet itself, only to find that that cloud formation, the vapor that's in the atmosphere, the water of the planet itself is having an effect on the cosmonauts and their mental state. So I won't go into too much detail. It's a long film, and if you know Tarkovsky, you know that he's a very deliberate director. He purposefully takes his time exploring the different aspects of what's going on. And he's got a wonderful eye. The cinematography is wonderful, even though it's all set bound, obviously, except for some of the stuff that takes place on Earth. But this is, as in terms of that physical representation of clouds as a barrier, I thought it was a really interesting film to take into consideration. We know from history that the clouds have caused problems for photography. However, they become the subject of photography when we focus on them and have the proper exposure for them. So to have the clouds, the water, the vapor actually become a character within the film that our human characters are interacting with seemed like a wonderful way to sort of kick off this series and hopefully get us thinking about clouds and how they affect us on a daily basis, if not in the same way that Solaris does. So Solaris is streaming on the Criterion channel, and you can view it there. And please come back for a couple of other recommendations of cloud films, and we'll see you next time.